everybody, and welcome to the Empowered CPA podcast. I am your host, Dawn Scott. I am super excited to talk about today's episode. I've been working behind the scenes on a lot of things that I've never really done before, things that take me very far outside of what I'm comfortable in and really put myself out there in more of a public space. And if you know me personally, you know that I'm a really introverted, private person. My friends want to see me, they know where I live and they come and see me. And every once in a while I grace the public with my face, but I really am a truly homebody. And so one of the things that I've committed to this year is to really try and push myself to get out more, because it's probably healthy, and COVID really catered to me to let me stay home without any feeling bad about it. So I'm trying to find a healthy balance between that. But these last couple of weeks, and I've mentioned it in passing, I was contacted and asked to do a story for Buffer, which is a really big online publication and platform for small business owners. And originally, the thing that I was most excited about was that I was going to get to work with a ghostwriter, which meant that I got to have verbal interviews, and then someone who was gifted with the word was going to write all of this for me. And that's the part that gives me the most anxiety, is the actual writing part. And so I was really, really excited to try out this new process. So originally, when we started talking, it was kind of about how I have an accounting practice, but I really am trying to do it differently and trying to create a community that is safe and encouraging and uplifting and all these things that I think are the best parts of what I do. And it was really interesting to me because after a couple of short interviews and after sharing my podcast so they could hear my verbal nonsense, they actually changed the direction of the article. And it went from talking about my accounting practice and how I was doing that differently to how I'm juggling more than one business, if you will, and how I'm making it sustainable and how I'm ensuring that I don't always, or, it's inevitable every once in a while, but how I make sure not to burn out and how to really, how I plan my life to accommodate everything that's important to me. And so it was such a fun experience. And I will tell you that it was also fun that after the article was published, which was last week, I did have several people reach out and they were like, Dawn, I'm a ghostwriter too. People from my past that maybe I forgot were ghostwriters, or didn't even think that in my universe I would ever need a ghostwriter. But I'm here to tell you that now that I've done it one time, I can't wait to do it again. I'm so excited. I'm actively looking for more reasons and more opportunities to utilize these people who are so gifted with the word. And it is, I'm really great with numbers, and I'm proficient with my voice, but man, you asked me to put it down on a piece of paper and I might as well be writing with a red crayon, because I am not gifted in that way. And so this was such a fun experience that took a lot of the stress from the whole experience away, because I knew that my point would be made in an eloquent way by someone else's talent. And so it was fun. We did several interviews where we just talked about my progression and how everything went. And it made me realize that I do have, if you're looking in, I do have several different businesses that I have going on at the same time. And there's some time management that goes into it. And that's something that I think that I've always historically taken for granted. In my podcast with Monica, we talked about when you're like, oh, this is so easy for you, that's probably where you should focus. And I've been pretty proficient at time management since I was a kid. I was lucky enough to be a Division I athlete. And so growing up, I was always doing more than one sport at a time. Whether it was one sport was for conditioning, one sport I was, pretty gifted at. It was always something where I knew if I wanted to be a college athlete, I needed to get good grades. So that was just a given. I had to get really good grades. And I also had to be really good at my sport. So I knew that there were things that I would have to give up in order to do that. And so I've been kind of practicing that kind of lifestyle since I was, I don't know, probably like 12 or 13, when I started traveling nationally for my given sports. And so for me, time management is just something that is a part of my daily life. And so the article really focuses on that. And it's like, you're involved in all these things. How on earth do you manage them? And so we talk a lot in the article about, I have several things that really make me tick. I need to know from a personal perspective that there's food in the fridge to cook dinner at the time I'm supposed to begin dinner. And if I know, say in the morning, that I don't have anything in the fridge to cook for dinner, it throws my entire day off. And that's a personal quirk of mine. And it's something I tried to work on and it just doesn't go away. So I just ensure that that is taken care of because it's something that is easy to plan for, something that I can control 100%, if, maybe 99%, but I can really control that. And so I start each week by identifying the things that I can control without a doubt. And I make sure those things are in place because then I can put those things out of my mind and I don't have to worry about those things. So like if I wake up and I'm like, the chicken is frozen and it may not be ready by dinner, I can't even function and it throws off my whole day and it wastes hours that is something that I shouldn't be wasting my hours on. So we take care of that. I have little people. And so little people are notorious for getting sick when we really don't want them to get sick. And so, as much as I can, regulating what, their schedules look like and what my commitments are to them. Those are something, those events or field trips or volunteering or something that's very, very important to me as a person, as a mom and as a parent. So those are things that take priority over a lot of other things. So I make sure that those are handled, those get slotted in and things go around them because that is a priority that I have set. Your priority may be Sunday brunches with your friends or, whatever that may look like. But if I know that those are taken care of and that I am showing up for those things wholeheartedly, that makes me, it calms me and it gives me a lot of, time to focus on other things when I know that I will be there for those things. I'm not going to miss them. And so then for me and my profession, from a time management perspective, I have very, very specific deadlines for certain things. I have tax deadlines from an income perspective. I have sales tax deadlines for clients. I have payroll deadlines for certain clients. So I know this is due by this day, and I joke a lot, but I'm a firm believer in Murphy's Law. And so we do not put those off. Those things get done as quickly and as promptly as possible, because if you wait till the last minute to do those things, you're going to stress about them till they're done, but also your printer will break or your internet will go down. And that adds stress that you could have avoided by doing those things first. And I'm guilty of not always wanting to do things that I don't want to do. I put them off sometimes because I just don't want to deal with them. But if you commit to prioritizing those and getting them off your plate, you'll enjoy the things that you actually enjoy doing, and you're not going to feel that guilt by prioritizing them over something else that probably should have been a higher priority. And so, the culmination of identifying your, what you have to get done, whether it's you run one business or you're single or you have a family or you have 4 businesses, you have partners, whatever it is, really and honestly, sitting down, and I do mine weekly, sitting down and saying, these are the things that I have to get done, and making sure that those things get done, because you want to know if you're booking yourself out so much that if something hiccups, you're going to find yourself in trouble. You need to see those pitfalls early. You need to know, if this meeting runs over, I'm going to ruin the next 4 meetings. So I always try to build in a buffer because I don't like to be late, and it also adds to my stress. So identifying the things for you as an entrepreneur that, bother you. So do you do your meetings, I'll be there around 9:00, or I'll see you at 9:00. I am the person, if I tell you that I'm going to meet you at 9, I'm calling you. It probably 8:59, because I do not want that clock to say 9:01, because to me that means I'm late, and that really triggers me. And so being honest with yourself about that is going to be a game changer. In the article, we also talk about why I have several things going on. And to be honest, I think that several of my activities are very, they marry well together. They go together. They complement each other. And so I can really take a look at those at a global level and say, you know, if I work on this, this can be running while I'm, you know, doing these other things. So if I do this first, in my mind, I see, you know, if I do this first, I put this digital product out, it's available all the while that now I'm working on taxes, but this other thing is kind of operating on its own. So I try to visualize what's the best use of my time to get as much as I can out of all of my things. And then I think the part that really is so curious to most people is, you know, I do accounting and I have digital stuff and I have this podcast and we talk about the same thing. But then over here, I also am involved in this blow dry bar, and it is at no level is it related. I mean, I do the accounting and taxes and stuff for it, but from a business perspective, it is a totally different animal. And I think when I was approached about it and when I was evaluating it, I saw it as an opportunity to fill like a passion or a void or something that I thought would be really fun. And so it was something that I was able to identify with the partners. These are our specific tasks that we will be responsible for. And so I was able to evaluate the tasks, add in a little bit of buffer, because we all know things don't always go as planned. But I knew from a coordination perspective or from a time perspective that I would be able to fulfill that while still maintaining everything else I'd committed to. And that part is, I think, the crux of where, if you're trying to do more than one thing, that's where you can find yourself in trouble, because sometimes we're presented with something and it is so exciting and it is so fun. And you're like, oh, I'll make it work. And that's fun and fine for a little while, but year 4 of just trying to make it work, you're going to start abandoning other things that may have been important to you previously, or you're going to find yourself working more than you wanted to be working. And so really being honest, I think the entire, the life's blood of the article is you just have to be so honest with yourself. And you have to say that, you know, I lay out these beautiful schedules every week, but I mean, listen, it doesn't always go according to plan. And so you need to have some course of action and some way to prioritize. You know, if I have to go to the salon for a full morning to deal with X, Y, or Z, and I had planned on doing, you know, all these other things, how am I going to fit those into my schedule so that I don't derail everything? And so just being truthful with yourself, like, oh, it's just going to work itself out. It certainly does not usually end up that way. And so, you know, the article was so fun because I got to talk about something to me that is just so normal because I've been doing it for so long. And something that I definitely think is one of my bigger skills is, you know, the time management and the honesty I have with myself. Like, yeah, it's going to take me 6 hours and I don't just budget 2 hours for it, you know? And so it was so fun to be able to talk about this and to share this with so many people. I mean, guys, 1.5 million people a month view this website, which that's a lot of people. And so it was such a fun experience and something that I took so much out of because I was able to share some things. And, you know, one of the other things that was important was, you know, making sure that the people around you are also on board. You know, your friends, your family, you know, everybody. And if they're not on board, either you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, or you're not spending your time with the people who you should be spending your time with. And it could be a combination of there, but just knowing that, you know, my family, I think, thinks I'm crazy and that's okay. And, they love me still, but it's important to really evaluate what's important to you. And, there was an article I read this week that said, most businesses fail by, 5 years. And what I liked about the article was, maybe they didn't fail. Maybe 5 years in, there was a change of direction of the person who owned the business. And maybe it was a volitional choice. And maybe that statistic isn't quite right, because maybe for the first 4 years of the business, it was working within that business owner's lifestyle. And then maybe year 5, they're like, you know what, I want to go a different direction. And that means closing this chapter to start a new chapter. And so the perception of, well, the business closed, that must have been a failure, I think is wrong. I think there's a lot more data that goes into that. And that's not something that people talk about. And so really talking about this, I'm struggling with this and I'm doing this, or, this has changed in my life, or my priorities have changed, or my desires have changed, or my needs have changed. And so it was so fun to really work with someone to get out all of my meanderings and onto this page and hopefully help somebody with, time management, because it's not everyone's strength, and they're probably really good at something that, people like me are not very good at. And so it was such a fun experience, and I wanted to share. And if, you have a couple extra minutes around, the article is on Buffer, and it is super exciting. And I feel excited that I'm able to share with so many people. And I'm pumped about it. And I hope it helps somebody. And I hope that, if you're on the fence about, can I take on more? I hope maybe it shows you that, I do have a family that I'm very committed to from a time perspective. And I do have more than one business that, are profitable and community driven, and it is possible. And I think the more stories we hear about that, the better. So yeah, super excited. And I'm glad I could share that with you and my experience. And if you have the opportunity to work with a ghostwriter, you should absolutely do that, because it was a really, really great experience. And again, we all know what we're good at and what we're not good at. And for me, writing is that thing. And so outsourcing that took off so much stress from my life, and it made the process just really fun. So, thanks for tuning in today. It's always such a pleasure to have you here. You guys can find me on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you enjoy your shows.